Hey YouTube, it's David from Bootstrap.com. In this video I'm gonna show you how to work with the developer web tools, and I'm gonna show you some tricks I think you didn't know. So let me know in the comments down below which of what I'm about to show you didn't know and which you already knew. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so let's start with beginning. So how to open web developer tools. So you can do it either from settings, so click to settings, more tools, and then you're gonna see developer tools, or you can use Ctrl+Shift+I or Command+Shift+I on Mac to open it. Now let's talk about the stacking. So as you can see, this is on the right side of my screen, but you can also dock it to the left, to the bottom if you want, or you can even have it in a separate window. So it's up to you where you like it, how you like it. I will stick to the right side of my screen. Now, basically, what do we use web developer tools? For those who doesn't know what it is, it allows us to inspect our websites, and we can do it in the both directions. So we can either go through our code, and it will help us easily to see which elements are rendered. So as you can see, when I'm hovering over here, you can see this is showing me which element it is. Even if we go to certain sections down below, let's say somewhere in the footer, and I can't see it here, I can easily right click and use option scroll into view, and it's gonna show me this element. As I said, it's bidirectional, so it works both way. If you use this inspect or Ctrl+Shift+C, you can easily click on the given element on any website, and you will see how its HTML looks like. Now, talking about the HTML, we can easily edit this. So we can change this to contact me, for example. We can hide elements, unhide them, or we can even remove them. So as you can see, we can easily edit page. Obviously, once we refresh the page, everything will get back to normal. So those changes are not persistent. We cannot hack someone's pages like this. There are other ways to do it, but we're gonna talk about it in different tutorials. Now, talking about the edition, well, except for the HTML, we can also obviously work with the CSS. So let's pick up this element again, and as you can see, we can we can see all the classes applied to this element. We can see where are they coming from, so from which file. We're gonna get back to the sources tab in a second, but for now let's focus on the CSS itself. We can add some stuff. So let's say we want to hide it, but using this using CSS, we can just set display none. We can also enable or disable certain classes to see what kind of impact they have on a given element, and we can obviously change values of certain elements. So this is very interesting tool when it comes to doing some adjustments, because you can do them in the real time, right? So basically, whatever you change, it will get affected, so you don't have to actually work on the source code itself. You can do small adjustment over here and then update your source code. Now let me show you. Now let me quickly show you this one. So here you have also boxing model, so you can easily see which element is which and what is the size of it. So here we can see the padding. You can see the green here, green bars over here, borders, margins, and there are here, for example, the margin at the bottom. So that visualize you how it's actually rendered. Now, another interesting thing about it is a color picker. So we can play with certain colors. Let's say we have this footer over here. Let's quickly search for color. Here we have it, this one. So first of all, we're going to use the color picker. So you can choose any color on your page and just change it, as simple as that. If you hold Ctrl+Shift and start clicking on it, you can also convert this to the different colors presentation, so RGB, HSL, or just a hex options. Obviously, once we refresh, everything gets back to normal. Another very helpful tool is this option to simulate the pseudo classes. So you can see here we have some hover effect over this element. So let's try to inspect it here. This is this navbar brand, and probably this is this anchor over here. So if I go here and click hover, I'm gonna see what kind of class, what kind of CSS is gonna get applied when I hover over this. So I can easily simulate whatever pseudo class you can think of without actually, you know, trying to click on it and then wondering what has actually happened or what's gonna happen to this element. You can just simply click hover or any other state and it will basically show you what it does. Now let's move into another fantastic option in Web Developer Tools, which is mobile or device toolbar. So basically when we click here, we can simulate how our page looks on a different mobile devices. We can choose a device from the list which we want. For some of them, as you can see, we can even have this this frame, so hide device frame, show device frame. We can change the orientation, so we can easily simulate this behavior. As you can see, this also simulates a click or touch. You can see that now my cursor is it's a circle, so that indicates that this is a touch element. So whenever it comes to working with some touch libraries or swiping effects, you can easily simulate it with the with web developers tools. Regarding the size, you can choose one of the predefined. You can define list as you like, so you can add some other devices or you can add custom device, whatever you want. You can also choose a responsive mode, so you can basically define or decide what will be the size of it. And another interesting thing is that we can also see the media queries. So here you can see what are the media queries applied over here. And now when I start shrinking, you will see that I'm falling into different media queries. When I click on it, I can also see how they will behave or how they will look like on a different media query. So when our CSS basically get into different query, meaning that now I'm in this media query and this is how it looks like, and now I want to check how this another media query works, and I can see it's working pretty fine. Another interesting thing about this tool is that we can also zoom in. So basically this is like we've been pinching into our screen. We can also simulate pinching with holding Shift button and scrolling up and down. So this is pretty what you will get on the other devices. Another interesting thing is when we go to these three dots over here and we choose more tools, sensors, we will see this window over here, which allows us to simulate a different sensor behavior. So what you can simulate here, we can simulate different locations. So we can actually use different IP if we use a geolocation. But what is even more interesting, we can also choose orientation of our phone. So for example, we can have something like this and we can rotate it by whatever degrees we want. And if we have some code which should react on that, we could easily you know, see whether it's working or not without having actual physical device in our hand. So I think it's really amazing, you know, what you can do here in Web Developer Tools. Now let's move to the next very interesting and very useful tab, which is here, which is called Network. So if you go to Network tab and refresh our page, what you're gonna see is all the requests which our page been doing. So basically whatever we are loading. So we're starting with the landing HTML, which is the HTML5 for this, and then we start, or actually the browser starts to load all the elements. We can see two interesting lines over here. So the very first line is it's showing when the DOM content loaded happened. So when this event happened, when our DOM was fully loaded, basically DOM content loaded indicates the browser has finished parsing the document, but other resources such as images and style sheets may not been downloaded yet. So and this is represented by the blue line, and the red line on the other hand basically shows when all the resources like images, style sheet, JavaScript have been loaded, and this is this red line. Sometimes, very rarely, you can have both at the same time. If this is very quick, then that will just become purple. What's interesting here, we can easily filter. So if you want to see what CSS have been loaded, images, media, or what queries given page is doing. When you're doing some Ajax call, you can easily see them over here. So this is very interesting. And from here, we can easily go to and see each and every file we are looking for. So if I open this here, I can see all the files which are used with this page. And now, very interesting part here. Let me show you on the JS. It's going to be better visible. So let's go to all minified JS, opening source panel. This is going to show me the JS. Obviously, it's minified. We can't read it, but with the help of web developer tools and this tiny button over here, we can print the entire JS which we have over here. Now, another trick, Control P, and we can jump into any file we want. Let's say selector engine.js, and we are editing this file. We can obviously change these files over here, so we can do some adjustment and see how they works. With the pressed Control button, we can do a multicoursor, so we can edit few lines at the same time. If we select something here, it's gonna show us other selections, so other occurrence of the same. If you want to jump to the next occurrence, we can do Control D, and this will basically move us to the next occurrence of whatever we have just selected with our mouse. Now, talking about that, I can't leave you without mentioning the debugger option. So if you want to debug your code, if something doesn't work, you can easily set a breakpoint over here. Let's say line number 23. And now when we refresh the page, our execution will stop over here. You're gonna see this debugger over here, and you can check the current state of your page. If you want, you can move to the next step and continue the execution. So that's how it works. You can see all the variables at a certain moment. So this really helps to debug if something doesn't work, if something doesn't behave as you expected. Talking about the breakpoints, you can also set up a breakpoint from this inspection tab, and you can use this break on, and you have a few options here. So you have subtree modification, attribute modification, node removal. So let's say we want to set up a break on the attribute modification. So every time the attribute of this node, of this paragraph will change, our page will stop. So that also might help you with debugging why something is changing on your page, although you, for example, didn't want to, and then realized that some part of JS or whatsoever did it to you. Next interesting thing, I don't know whether you knew, but the elements like the inputs, text boxes, or other basic elements which are normally hidden from view, they are represented as a shadow DOM. So let's check this input over here. You can see it here. And now, if we go to settings and choose show user agent shadow DOM, now we will see that this input has its shadow DOM representation, which is not visible at the first glance without having this option checked in the settings menu. So before we move to another tab, this network also allows you to identify which are the bottlenecks of your page, which content was loaded, how long did it take, and whether it was like which exactly part of loading took such a long place, whether it was SSL handshake or initial connection or whatever else it could possibly. So that will show you. It will also show you all the data which were supposed to load it here, but for some reason they errored out. When you click on it, you can see easily also all the request response headers. So when it comes to more advanced calls like APIs or REST calls, this is very, very helpful. Here we see the code. However, in the API calls, in the XHR calls, you would see something like this, right? And then obviously you can also pretty print this one easily. Now let's move to the console tab, which is another very interesting option and a very interesting tool. So here with the use of console, we can do a lot. So basically this is a properly working JS console. So we can type whatever we want here, right? And this will work. We can do let x equals document get element by ID. Let's say navbar. I think we have element like this. Yeah, and now we just assign it like we would do in the normal JavaScript. Now, every time we refresh the page, obviously all the logs are gone. If we don't want to lose it, so let's again do some console log here. We need to click this preserve log, and now when we refresh the page, we will see this information, which is very important because when you, for example, submit this and send it to some other page without Ajax, but basically with the PHP, it will be gone, everything will be gone. But with this option checked, it will basically stay here and you will be able to see what or how the request actually looks like. Talking about the request, within the network tab, we can also set up a throttling, so we can see how our page will be loading on some predefined connections. So slow 3G, fast 3G, or we can do some custom speed, and we can define what is the download, upload, and latency, which is very, very handy when it comes to testing your page on the connections or for the users which doesn't necessarily have the fiber network. Jumping back to the console, a very handy option is something which looks like a little bit like a jQuery, but it's not. So we can use this selector. So this is short document query selector. So this will return the first element matching CSS selector, let's say div. So this is going to show me the first one. If I do double, it will show me all. So this is basically same as document query selector all. And what is very, very useful as well is whenever we are working with this elements tab over here, I'm gonna use this element. You can see this nice or small $0 mark over here. So what it does, it remembers our 4 last elements which were selected by us, and now we can easily access them by simply typing $0, and this will basically this will be assigned to the last element. The same for 1, 2, and so on. So this is the history of the last 3 selected element for us. Now the next very cool stuff about this is that whenever we were working with some nested DOM and we want to get into some element which is nested somewhere deeply, we use this copy option, and here you will see different ways of copying. So you can have a JS path. So if I copy paste it here, you will see. So this is how to get to this element using the selector. Obviously, sometimes it's a little bit artificial, but it gives you some idea on how to get this into this element, or how this element was actually created. You can use the X path. You can use the selector. So this is just the what you've seen inside the brackets. Now, jumping on into application tab, what you can see here are all the cookies which we have within our page. We can easily remove them from here, so we can manage our cookies. The same applies to the local storage. So if your application uses local storage to store some data, you can preview all of them from here. You can remove them, reset them. You can also see how much storage they use, manifest file and service workers. If you work with them, you will also see whether they has been registered over here or not. And a lot of different options here for the cache storage, push messaging, and so on and so on. Then another interesting option, performance tab. So When we hit Ctrl E to start a new recording, then Ctrl R to refresh our page, and then once the page is loaded, we can stop it and we will see very detailed analysis of what has happened on the network side, so we can really go into it. And if you are familiar with Page Insight from Google, you will see the same terminology over here. So first contentful paint, largest contentful paint, also all these abbreviation which you know and which Google uses to score or to give you grade to your page. So we're gonna have a separate video on that, because as you can see, it's quite complex. A lot of things are going on here, but just for your information, if you look at this, it will help you to understand whether you or why your page may be scoring good or bad with Google Page Insight. And finally, I'm using the local template over here, but let's open mdbootstrap.com page and check how security on mdbootstrap looks like. So this will help you to validate whether your page is secured or not. Okay, there are more advanced stuff to be discussed within Web Developer Console. However, I hope that for this video I already showed you a little bit more that you knew. Let me know in the comments down below whether you knew everything I showed you, or if not, tell me what was new to you. If you want to see more videos like this, please let me know down below in the comments. And also, we are organizing the Q&A session. So if you have any questions regarding anything you would like to ask us, please do not hesitate to leave your questions down below in the comments. Thank you for watching and keep coding.